I was saying to you that backstage that, for stand-ups who've been going for 20, there's a lot of stand-ups who just do stand-up, have been going for 20, 30 years. That's all they did. They thought, oh, well, I'm safe. I've got 6 months work ahead, booked in. And COVID happened. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to go online. They didn't, they weren't ever going to do that. But you were, I think, as a younger person as well, and maybe understood a bit more about that. You were kind of adaptable, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all was starting to get a vibe that online was the place to be. Because I was never really a kid that was into the internet. Like, obviously, my generation grew up with YouTubers like Zoella and people, and I never really got that, in all honesty, but I was aware that it was a thing. And then I loved Instagram, and I followed Instagram influencers, and I was just like, oh, maybe I genuinely like bought followers once on just like my personal Instagram. I was like, I'll just post outfit pics and stuff. So I was always like aware, but all of these apps, I felt like I was like, it's so hard to get recognized on these apps now, because they've kind of all the people who were big on them were there at the start. Yeah. There was no app to be there at the start, and then TikTok kind of hadn't quite been touched yet. It was like there, and I remember downloading it before the pandemic and just kind of like looking at it and being like, maybe. I did the same with Vine way back at school. I like did one video about like hairbands on your wrist, which actually I then did a TikTok about. Whoa. But like I never did that. But yeah, it kind of always been a thing, and I think I'd tried out like 2 videos before the pandemic, so I'd kind of like dipped my toe and knew it was the thing I could do. And then when the world closed down, I was like, I guess this is what we're gonna do full time now. And it was for like 2 years I didn't have a day off. I just made videos, and obviously because if it'd gone badly I would have stopped quite quickly, but it went well, so I just kind of kept going.
So you've got like 800,000 followers, something like that. Is it more than that now?
It's more, actually.
Okay.
No, it's I don't actually know the exact number, but it's a 9.
Okay, so
I think it's
approaching
like
1 million.
950K.
Okay.
Yeah, approaching the 1 mil.
Yeah, so that's pretty amazing. And I have to say, I really recommend having a look at this feed, because it's full of ideas. And I think a lot of people get an idea online and just stick with that one thing, and that can be very successful. And we've had people on who've got like a brilliant thing that they do. This is my format, and here we go. I think with yours, they're all really different. Some of them are musical, some of them are a sketch. They're often just a single idea explored. Yes. But the amount of work, I think, is, you can see how much work has gone into it.
Yeah, I'm tired. Very tired. Yeah, I think, honestly, I haven't picked the best way to do online. I think doing the internet does reward doing one thing, because I think especially how the feed works is they see something and they recognize it, and they just want to keep seeing that. Whereas I never really wanted to do that, because also I never really wanted to be an online person. I wanted to be a stand-up, I want to be a comedian, I want to be an all-rounder. So I just want to, when I have a funny idea, I'm like, oh, I want to make that. I don't want to just repeat the same thing. Sure. Which I think has actually hindered more than helped, because then people are like, who's that and who's this and what's this content? Like, she doesn't do this kind of content. But yeah, I think that's just what I wanted to do. I think I've always had like I'm always like, oh, I'm playing the long game. I don't know what game I'm in, but I'm playing the long game. That's what I tell myself. Anyway,
I think it's sort of interesting that I think it really says a lot about where comedy's going, right? I think what's happening to you. And I find that quite exciting. I think I know a lot of comedians get sort of freaked out by things changing. But you saying, I've seen you saying in interviews that you were, because you were playing to like audiences, there were a lot that were significantly older than you in general. So you couldn't do the material.
And it's nice to be back.
Good. But no, well, you'll find when you get through the other side, you'll start doing references that you're the only one who remembers because you're so old. No one else gets them. But your references, your audiences weren't getting them. And so through social media, you're able to literally find your audience of young women like yourself. But I think not. I don't think it's exclusively. I mean, I still think they're really funny and enjoy them. I'm one of the old men.
Yeah,
But,
I can look at my analytics. It's just one.
it's me. There he is.
It's nice to meet you.
But it's good to be here.
I was worried for a second, but okay. You're legit. You're legit.
But isn't that terrific that you're able to find, through online work, you're able to find that exact audience who then now will, you're going to be doing Edinburgh this year and with your first full show, right? So that audience is going to completely come and find you.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
I did a work in progress, and it's such a weird thing because I think it is one of the big pros of the internet. Like, I'm not 100% pro internet, but I think one of the pros is that you can find your people, and it's not even about being young. Like, I think anyone, it's mad. You can find the nichest group online.
Oh, believe me, I know.
Like, if you have like any interest or any hobby, like if you post specific humor or videos about that, the people who will like that will find it.
Yeah.
Which is great because I think it wasn't even about it was like younger references, but also even if I just had like a joke that I found really funny about a specific film, you can't do that in stand-up because you need everyone in the room to have seen the film.
Yeah.
So those were jokes that you're like, oh yeah, that's funny, but it wouldn't work in every room. And stand-up's all about building a set that would work in every room. Whereas on the internet, that doesn't matter. You can just do the joke, and the people who have seen the film will get it.
Yeah.
And I have done gigs where people who are like, this is my life. I had actually, there's a mum and a daughter. So I did Pleasance Reserve, which is like a mixed bill of new comedians, and then I did a work in progress in Edinburgh. And both years now, this mum and daughter have come, and it was the daughter's first ever stand-up gig.
Right.
And now her mum like keeps bringing her back, which is so much pressure. Oh my god! Like if that girl comes back next year with like piercings and eyeliner, I'm like, it's my fault. But yeah, so like that's great, but it's also this weird pressure because they're not as like live comedy literate, and they don't. I remember when I did my first gig back in the world from the internet, it was so weird because it's almost like they don't know that they're meant to respond, or like you try and talk to them and they're like, turn the volume down, mute it, like what's happening? And so like it's sometimes a little strange. I also, my work in progress, like people don't know what work in progress means. Like I had people who came on their hem party to my work in progress. Someone had just on Arthur's Seat proposed to his girlfriend, and after the proposal came to my work in progress in a karaoke room in the city cafe where I was just reading from a notebook being like, here's a joke I wrote today, many happy returns. So it's kind of that weird mix of like, it's amazing that they're coming, but also I do feel like I sometimes have to explain, because also I got this audience before I had a show. This is the first year that I'm actually like, okay guys, I feel like I've been keeping them, I've just been kind of like breadcrumbing them, kind of like that guy who just like slides into your DMs, right? People, relatable stuff.
But those are they're the guys who slide into the DM. They just didn't like being called out.
Yeah. Ah, your profile picture's a 1950s car. I recognize you now. And but yeah, I've just been kind of like keeping them at bay, like, oh, just stay interested in me, but like I haven't got a show yet. And so like this is the year where I'm finally going, okay, now come. And I don't know if they're still interested. We'll find out.
I think they will. I think they will be. And I guess, well, there's because the TikTok stuff is so many different things, because there's sketches, there's bits of your stand-up which I think are really interesting. There's sometimes you do little
interesting.
Well, no, but it's interesting to. It's very funny, but it's interesting to see the bits you choose. But it's also you did like a whole thing about your Edinburgh experience where you sort of
I did a whole YouTube vlog.
Yeah.
Once and never again.
Really, but it was really. I think that was it was a really interesting thing. I think for a punter to see, and I found it interesting as well as a comedian to see someone else's experience of Edinburgh, what you're doing, when you're not on stage, what you're going to see. But there was a gig and that where the audience hadn't really come alive, right? And you were talking to the other acts, and they were saying that was the worst one of the.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
Yeah, but because
I got them to do a Mexican wave.
You did.
That's what I resorted to.
But it was because your comedy, from what I've seen on TikTok, is sort of so much. There's a lot of interaction, but also
It's needy.
You're very up and very energetic.
Yes.
And right, so if the audience, which you'll get, especially in Edinburgh, you'll get a day where every single audience across the whole city is just sitting there going, they're wet and they're not interested in anyone or any comedy, and they're going, that's the best you're going to get. So to see you try to work that, I thought that was a really fascinating, and get them to do a Mexican wave, criticize them for their Mexican wave, but you got them to do it. I mean, I think that's that. So that's like.
I think I got them to do it like 5 times.
Yeah.
I'm like, we will not leave until it's done.
I think that's incredible. I think that's a really good bit of crowd work that I presume then made the gig a bit more bearable.
Yeah. I think you die so much harder when you're an up comedian. I've always been very jealous of like deadpan comedians who pretend they don't care, and they're pretending because I think they care the most. But it's so much easier for them to die because they can just be like, yeah, well, I wasn't even trying. Whereas if you go on, you're like, hey, be my best friend, and they're like, nah. You're like, well, it's clear I care. So I guess I'll just go cry now.